Hello, NextOppSocial family. Welcome to another discussion here on the NextOppSocial channel. As always, I'm Richelle Wright Wilson, and I'm joined by Joanne Buford. And today we're excited to bring Alan and Alexis, the owners of Soupdive, a restaurant, a restaurant located in Warren that is a fusion of healthy and delicious. So welcome to the NextOppSocial channel. Before we jump into learning more about them and their backgrounds, as always, if you're watching with us here either live or on the replay, please make sure you hit that subscribe button below so that you never miss an interview, a live, or any of the incredible discussions we have here at NextOppSocial. Okay, so let's get into it. Welcome, both of you. Thank you again for joining us here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're very excited to talk about your journey and let our viewers get familiar with you. So let's jump into it. Tell us more about yourselves, your background, and because we are all about entrepreneurship here, what caused you to fall in love with being an entrepreneur?
Well, my background is actually nothing to do with food. I actually went to college, got a double bachelor's in psychology and criminal justice. And then I tried to go out in the work field and they were like, well, you need experience to, be involved in this endeavor. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go work for anybody for free as another internship because I already did an internship. But I decided to stay at the current job I was at. I was a manager at a direct care facility. I was working with mentally and developmentally challenged adults. And that's what sparked the entrepreneurial spirit inside of me because the business that I work for is owned by my grandmother. And she has been in the field since I was like 13. She opened up these group homes and because she said she didn't want to work for anyone else. And then my mother, she's also an entrepreneur. She does meals and everything for people. So she's a cook and she cooks meals and everything. She does that, her own little catering. And then my dad does clothing and then he's a contractor. So he works on houses, he finds HUD houses in Detroit and revamps them and everything and then gets them sold, So the entrepreneurial spirit has always been something inside of me that my family has instilled in me. Like people aren't satisfied with what you're giving them and you've taken your time to go to college, we'll find something else that'll make you happy. And bringing good food to people really does make me happy, seriously.
All right, yeah. And, for me, I think it started probably when I was a little younger. My immediate background, I work for a mortgage company. I've worked there for about 8 years, was able to move up in the ranks and things like that, and I obtained a management position. But I always kind of thought myself as being someone who was really independent when it comes to employment. I started working when I was in high school. And I kind of never really liked that rat race. So, getting up, going to work, having a paycheck, and then, this is something that was a continuous journey. For me personally, I just didn't see how I could grow in that kind of a field and do the things that I wanted to do, being able to enjoy life the way I want to enjoy life and the way that I need to enjoy life. So, after graduating from high school, I joined the military. When I got out of the military, I kind of did like some freelance work, some freelance photography. I always kind of have my thumb on real estate. That was one thing that I always wanted to kind of invest in was in real estate, have rental houses, property, things like that. But we were able to create an opportunity here in Soupdive. I did not have a food background. I did not go to culinary school or anything like that. But the great thing about it is because we purchased a franchise, and with us purchasing a franchise, we don't really need that level of expertise in order to do the job. And that's the benefit of where we're at right now. So it's pretty cool.
It is. It's really exciting. We don't have to be here every day. If we decided that we wanted to close the storefront for the day and everything, we definitely could. We don't, of course, just because we like making money. But, we like to take care of our clients. We don't want them coming up like, oh, they said they open, why they close, But it's the idea that we could, that freedom is very important to us.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So I'm hearing a couple themes here. And then I have a question, but the theme I'm hearing is something that, we've heard commonly time and time again. If you've been on earth longer than 2 minutes, right? We're told, go to school, get good grades, go out and get a good job. And of course,
Dean's List and everything. I graduated with a 3.8 overall, a double major, and they still were like, no, you're not gonna. I was like, well, forget y'all.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was on the complete opposite of that spectrum. Like, I was not on the Dean's List. I wouldn't get 3.5s or anything like that. On the complete other end of that avenue. But it's that structured environment works for some people, but it doesn't work for a lot. I'm a person who I like to get into the work. I can. You can put a textbook in front of me. I'm a reader. I love to read. I can sit down and I can spend hours reading if I have the capacity to be able to do that. But as far as like that structured space where you're just kind of like in the classroom for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and you having somebody lecture to you, it just didn't work for me. My brain is not formatted to retain information like that. Give me some information, give me a to-do list, give me some instructions, and let me go out and do it.
Yeah. So obviously neither one of you are afraid of work.
No.
But you chose the restaurant industry still.
Yeah.
And I have look. Talk about you cannot be afraid of work and jump into the restaurant industry.
Right.
And you also went a direction that a lot of individuals typically don't choose to go, especially when they first start out, and that's entertaining a franchise, right? And if you don't mind, share with our audience, why did you choose the franchise route? I mean, you kind of touched on it for a moment, but why a franchise as opposed to just starting up a restaurant yourself?
Because I liked her ideal. I liked the Soupdive. The concept of where we bring you that healthy and that delicious, and now it's a unit. It's something that was crafted very beautifully to me, and it was something that I would love to bring to people, given everyone of any type of dietary preference and option, to have something that they can really enjoy.
And to be honest with you too, I mean, the food itself is standalone. Is some of the best food that you would have. When we visit, I was very familiar with the restaurant before we were even talking about possibly doing business with the franchise. And the first location is right around the corner from my office business, from my office space where I work. I used to go there for lunch quite often, and the food was amazing, and it was consistently amazing. And regardless of what it was that you ordered, whether it is lamb chops, turkey chops, crab cakes, salmon croquettes, the soup was amazing. I was like, wow, this is something here. This is very special. And I mean, when you got a product that's that good, you kind of got to look at investing in it, because at the end of the day, that's one of the biggest challenge points that a lot of people face is, product. Being able to not just create a product, but have a product that's creative enough that separates you from your competition and that helps you stand out. And we have a product that, that does all of those things. And we don't have to spend hours or years trying to develop it, trying to cultivate it, trying to craft it, trying to put it into works. It's all that legwork is already done. We're just trying to, propel it to the next level.
Yeah, take this Black-owned franchise and push it and move it, so people can come in here and be like, oh, we would like to invest in, assist you guys and open up another location in Troy or in Royal Oak, or other places, and that would be beautiful if we could do that. Seriously.
Now, that sounds great. I love it. You're a product of the product, but it was not smooth sailing in the beginning.
No.
I remember the first time I was introduced to you. I remember looking at my phone. I'm like, who's calling me up at Thursday p.m.? And I don't recognize the number asking me to help them about a document form. It was YouTube. And I can't remember who referred you to me. I can't even remember. I just remember picking up the phone and thinking to myself, what have these two gotten into? They're about to start up a restaurant. They have no restauranting experience whatsoever. And about to sign a franchise agreement with all the different mechanisms and levers and this, that, and the other. For individuals who are maybe considering starting up a franchise, what did that process look like? What were some of the difficulties you had to overcome in that process? What are some of the questions, maybe even anxieties you had, challenges with the process?
The paperwork. It was so much to read. It was so much to go through. And if you're not diligent, like Alan is, like he said already, I have to harp on it. This boy, he loves to read. And he was like, why pay a lawyer to go through this and read this when you have the skill set to read it? I was like, it is too much paperwork. But he broke down time frames for us to go through and read through this long, drawn out, unnecessary, in my opinion, contract, because the bread and butter was in like 3 sections and it was like 300 and something pages. I'm like, what is going on? But with your assistance and everything, with the program and everything you signed us up with, we were able to extrapolate from that what was the nit grit and able to send it off to somebody and ensure that what we thought it said is exactly what it said. And that was great, because we would have ended up spending maybe $3,000 to $4,000 having an attorney look over that whole thing, but it wasn't necessary, you know. And once we read through it, we pulled out the elements that were essential and had them read it, and they were like, "Yeah, what you guys are thinking that it means, that's what it means. So if you want to get involved in this, this is what this is going to mean. That you're going to have to be doing this and be stringent with these royalties and this organization spectrum that they have going on, and all those types of elements and everything." And so yeah. The paperwork was too much for me.
The paperwork was a lot. I mean, it was a ton of homework that we had to do. I mean, we both have full-time jobs that are very demanding, but we have to put in that work, because what ends up happening when we did it, and it was tough, but when we did it, it put us in a position where we can create a contract on our own terms. We were able to sit down at the table and we were able to say, this is what we don't like. This is what we need to work on. This is what we're not comfortable with. You know, and we were able to have that very, you know, necessary conversation on a regular basis throughout the entire process. So when things didn't meet our expectations, we were able to, you know, put the brakes on and say, hold on, this is not what we agreed to. This is not what we talked about. We were expecting this. And so it puts you in a position of power. And when they say knowledge is power, that is very, very true. I think that a lot of people, you know, when they create those documents,
because he was acting like an attorney when he was talking to these people too. Like he was like, well, in this section, this, and that, and it was just he had all these things written out and everything.
Like
it was
connecting
just
the dots. So funny. I really believe that, you know, they say that lawyers get paid by the words, and I believe that they put a lot of words in there just to, you know, discourage you from being able to do that.
It didn't matter. Alex still wrote out this agenda and everything. Or like it was like the alteration things that he wanted, the alterations he wanted to make to the contract. It was a whole long drawn out. So he sent them, because they had to give it to their lawyers or whatever. And he sent them a whole long drawn out essay, and they probably thought it was from a lawyer because it was so detailed. Because he had went in and extrapolated those pieces and broke it down and brought in other elements of the law that was able to back up why we didn't necessarily have to fulfill that part of the agreement, or why we were able to change it.
And, you know, the great thing about it too is that the people that you deal with, they deal with you differently now, because they already know that, all right, these are people who they know what they're talking about. They're taking the time, they're reading these documents, they're coming back and they're asking these questions, and they have a list of demands. So they treat us differently. I mean, I firmly believe that the person that we went into business with, she said it. She was thoroughly impressed with the level of work that we went and that we did on a daily basis. We were coming back and we were having conversations and discussions about changes that we wanted to make, and being able to give her those changes within a few days, while she's like, well, I gotta, you know, talk to my lawyer and I gotta bring, you know, and although we didn't have to do that because, you know, we put in that work.
I was tired though. I was really tired because he had me up after we had both already worked our jobs, reading paperwork all night. And then I'm like, I had to lay in a really awkward position so that I wouldn't fall asleep, because if I did not, I was going to fall asleep. So I was laying where my arm would have to like be up and everything. And I drank a lot of some of his tea and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of tea, but I did drink a lot of these teas and everything, and tried to stay awake. It was very, because the only reason why we didn't realize that we had more time than what we had. Alan made it seem like it all had to be done in like a week or two, and that really it didn't. We could have taken longer time because they took a long time to get back to us about it. His whole thing was like, well, it's done, don't worry about it. I'm like, but I had more time.
So there's something I want to tease out of this that you said though. And you know, the one thing I really thoroughly enjoyed about working with you two is you were always intellectually curious, right? The one thing I've learned from working with business owners, even in the beginning, is people fail to realize it's not what you know, it's what you don't know.
Right.
That can end up slitting your throat in business, right? And you know, it's you were always asking questions, always intellectually curious, always seeking out guidance, always seeking out information. I knew right away when I enrolled you in that leadership membership, I was like, you know what? They are going to abuse the hell out of this membership. They're going to get every penny out of it. And and I, you know, and just even the follow-up discussions we would have, and the urgency. You know, the other thing that caught my attention, and I just don't want people to sleep on this, is you treated the business not like a hobby, right? You treated it like, okay, we're going to build a business that's going to feed us, take care of our families, liberate us from this job. And the attitude came for the altitude. You had already made up your mind this business is going to be successful, and you respected it like so, right? Those things were like amazing to me, and just to see that transformation. I mean, I'm just smiling just thinking about it. I remember, I remember those late evenings, and I remember those phone calls.
And you were so patient with us, and we still appreciate it to this day.
I mean, those conversations that we had really helped us to, you know, really see the future too. Because I mean, when we were first talking about having a, you know, purchasing a franchise, and one of the main questions that you were asking us is, what is it that you're purchasing? Because you're supposed, if you're purchasing a franchise, you're purchasing a process. So what does their process look like? Is their process documented? You know, how does their process work? And, you know, those line of questioning, it helped us. It really did, because we were able to go ahead and have, you know, those kind of conversations with the business owner. We were able to talk about it, you know, amongst ourselves. And, you know, it really put us in the mind frame of, you know, this is something that we can do, and this is how it needs to be done. So it was a snowball effect. You know, it was just that one little, you know, question that you had, and it just kind of rolled into multiple different things. So it was great.
Cool. So as you overcame the initial challenges, right? So we've navigated through the paperwork. You've secured the rights to the business. You're getting ready to open the doors, right? And all the preparation, all these moving parts that need to happen before you say, hey, everyone, come in and enjoy our wares here. What did that process look like? So you filled out the paperwork, you secured the location. Now leading up to your open house, leading up to when you finally open the doors and allow the public in, what did that process look like for you all?
It was difficult because of COVID. Unfortunately, we had to change locations more than one time because of COVID. We were originally supposed to be inside of a mall, and then we were supposed to be at another location. And due to COVID, things just did not go as planned. And we ended up actually having to take on another financial burden because we had to do a complete build out, which wasn't originally in our contract.
Right.
So we actually had to go back to the drawing board, because now we were talking about another $100,000 because you have to build out the entire restaurant, you know. So it was just more hurdles. It was very, very stressful and strenuous, but we ended up getting with an okay contractor who was able to educate us on some different things, and, you know, give us cut us some breaks on a few things and everything, so that we could stay as close to our original budget as humanly possible.
You know, I would say this: it was a challenging moment, especially dealing with COVID. And Alexis, when I say that she went up and beyond to make sure that she had to actually put on an architect, you know, helmet at that point in time. Like we had to wear different hats, you know, as we were going through this process. It started off where we had to put on our lawyer hat. So when we put on our lawyer hat, and we had to do the negotiations and things like that, then we had to put on our architect and our engineering hat.
Listen, I was here every day while they were doing the project, and I was finding things that our original architect did not really properly put it into our plan. And I noticed that spacing was going to be an issue. And then it even became an issue where we had to do a whole different type of water tank because he didn't adequately put enough space where things were going to be. So I came in with my measuring tape. I'm like, this don't look like enough space. Like, I know how big my fridges are and how big my sinks and everything are. Like, this is not going to be right. Then they pulled up some stuff that I told them from the beginning not to pull up, and they ended up having to take the hit on that because I told I told them that it wasn't going to work, you know, but I was here every day.
She probably saved us probably around 20 to maybe 30, 40, 50,000.
Because people think they know everything.
Yeah,
you think you know everything, and you're not. They weren't properly taking the time out to make sure that everything was cohesive and it made sense, you know. And you know, it was my contractor was saying, you know, like, that's what I'm here for. I'm making sure they're doing this, I'm making sure they're doing that. Well, let's work together to do it, because obviously things aren't getting done properly, because we were supposed to have original regular water heater. Now we have to do 2 tankless water heaters because the spacing is jacked up, and they've already put in this big old wall. We can't have them move the entire wall. And I told you guys from jump that wall should have been moved over to, if we didn't need this much area up here. Listen, I'm not going to go into all of the details of what happened, because it'll make me want to forget all over again.
You know,
but it was crazy.
The thing about it is that how you start, it kind of follows you along that process. And because when we initially started and we sat down and we took the time to read through the contracts, to read through the franchise agreement, to read through policies and procedures and things like that, and we were able to make, you know, have those questions and make demands and things of that nature. When it came time for us to build out the space, we went through the exact same process, because that process worked. Again. So, you know,
but a different type of process.
It's a different type of process, but we learned things that we didn't. We were online researching, you know, different things and different phrases. You know, I'm not an architect. I never went to school for architect. She's not an architect. We're reading blueprints.
But some of the things are just common sense. It's like, you guys don't see this, it's not going to work.
I mean,
I gave you all the blueprints for all of my equipment. It's not going to fit in this space.
We even went as far as downloading apps on our phone to try to sketch out.
And I drew a whole little sketch thing out on this little app and everything, and showed them how certain I wanted things to be and everything. And that was actually the blueprint I gave the original architect and everything. And he was just like, where'd you get this from? I'm like, it's an app. Don't even worry about it. You use your stuff. I just want to show you what I wanted to look like.
You know, putting in that work, you know, it allowed us to be in a position where when something wasn't right, we would be able to say, hey, stop. This is not what we want. This is not what we agreed to. This is what our blueprint says. And we were able to refer to it. There were times where we were bringing it back to them, throwing, you know, spreading it out and saying, look, this is what you need to have.
Because I have my own
This
copy.
Is what, we have our own copy of it. We had it with us all the time.
I'm like, this is not what this looks like. You see this? It's not here. So it needs to be put here.
And we,
like,
you know,
I didn't understand.
Hold them to the fire when they were doing things. And, you know, he was talking about, well, I'm the contractor. I'm responsible for this and that. Well, when things weren't going right, we were like, hey, like you said, you're the contractor. You're responsible for this and that. This wasn't done. So you need to fix it. So,
and it was funny too, watching the interactions and everything, of how sometimes I would say something, but he would brush it off. So I would have to call Alan and be like, when you get off work, you need to come up here and talk to them because they're not listening to me. And Alan would have to get the things resolved because, you know, I guess my voice and my tone wasn't good enough for them to do what needed to be done. But Alan always, at the end of the day, you know, was able to come in and be like, they're going to do it. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay.
It was quite the experience.
So usually people have to transition into developing this entrepreneurial muscle that you're exhibiting now, right? There's a transition process. And individuals, it's like, it hits them like a ton of bricks and they realize that, okay, the juice is worth the squeeze, but I'm going to get squeezed. This is work. And I'm going to have to work just as hard as this as I do at my job, if not more so, right? It's that old axiom that, and when you start out as an entrepreneur, you do a lot of things you don't get paid for. So later on, you get paid for things you no longer have to do, right? And I'm just curious to know, where did this entrepreneurial muscle come from, right? Where did this drive, the willingness to stay up late, to sacrifice? Because I mean, you all are talking so matter of fact because you're in the process. That's how it is when you're in the process. You don't even think about it, you just do, right? But I mean, it took a lot of tenacity, it took a lot of patience, it took a lot of willpower to bring this business to fruition. Multiple locations, dealing with contractors, dealing with architects, people who think they know it all, and you're like, nah. I know.
Dealing with the health department.
Yes. Compliance. I mean, the restaurant industry is not a game.
No.
So
Yeah,
it
I told
took-
Alan, if we ever were to do anything involving food again, I would not do a storefront again. I swear. And I've made it through it. Like I've accomplished it. People can come in here every day, Monday through Saturday, and eat and then have a great space. The health department has come in here since our whole debacle with them, and they've even said how great the place is. But it was difficult.
You gotta have a
and
lot
the
of
level,
patience.
yes, you have to be very patient with people coming in and nitpicking. I mean, like the little tiniest things ever, and they are just harping on them and things like that. So no, I would prefer to do maybe a food truck type of situation or something. I don't know. But Alan loves it though. He's like, no, we gonna stay here forever.
To answer your question though, I think the spirit is something that we already had, so to speak. And when I say about that is that we put in it's all about perspective. We've already put in a lot of hours with everything that we were doing before we decided to go ahead and purchase a franchise. There were times where I was getting to work at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was getting off at 12, 1 o'clock at night. And just the little dedication just to try to make sure that all of the things that I needed to do at work were being taken care of. And Alexis was doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, because when I was in college, I had to be up doing a double major and everything because I wanted to finish in 4 years. So I had to be up all the time. I still work at the group home and everything like that. And even after college, I was working at a dispensary and at Amazon and at the group homes all at the same time. I would get off one job and go to the next and everything. But once COVID hit and everything, I had to make the group home my primary responsibility because people just weren't coming to work. They were just like, no. And as a manager, I have to stay at those particular houses and people just decided not to show up. So I was there for days on end at a time.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest question that a lot of people have to ask is, how much are you willing to have outside distractions deter you from being able to do the things that you want to do? Because we all spend time the way that we decide that we want to spend time. And, we can come up with, all kind of reasons to not do things that we want to do or do things that's necessary. But, you got to make that decision. I don't watch television. When I was, staying before we moved in, I did not have a TV in my apartment.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say he didn't even have a TV when I met him.
I didn't have a television. And I would spend that time sharpening those tools that I thought that was necessary in order for me to accomplish the goals that I wanted to accomplish. And we're already putting in work. Even if you're, depending on a lot of folks, like if you're working at a plant, you're putting in 10 hours of work at a plant. You may not be working extremely hard. It may not be a physically demanding job, or maybe it is, but it's still a lot of time and dedication and focus that you have to have on a daily basis in order for you to fulfill that obligation. And it's just transferring that focus, transferring that mindset into doing something that you want to do for yourself. If I can put in this much work for somebody else, to put somebody else's kids through college, to make sure that somebody else is able to buy them a nice house or drive whatever kind of car that they want to drive, why wouldn't I put that time, effort, and energy into myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've gotten away from this ideal of you have to sacrifice to be successful, right? Because when people think about sacrifice, they think about the things they have to give up, right? And when I listen to you, Alan, I don't hear sacrifice. I hear decisions.
Right.
You made choices. So instead of saying I have to sacrifice these things, instead you're saying, no, I made a decision. I decided to do these things so I could have the fruit later on, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love that I hear that from you, because oftentimes that's, I have to sacrifice watching the game. I have to sacrifice hanging out with fellas. I have to sacrifice going to the restaurant and taking a steak and egg and Instagram foodie pictures. I have to sacrifice. You know how people do it, man. They be killing me with that stuff.
I mean, it's what's important to you. Is that game so important that you want to sacrifice your future in a sense?
But no, you made the decision to embrace your future. It was a decision.
Right.
So you're making decisions as opposed to sacrifices. And I love hearing that energy emanate off both of you. I love it. Go ahead, Rochelle.
Well, you talk about all I feel like we're already we're going through this journey of the contracts, the build out, and you're wearing many hats. And so now I'm curious now, as from opening this business during COVID, opening his business during what would truthfully be anyone's advice would tell you to not open a restaurant last year.
Yeah. It was advice.
Franchise or not,
Advice,
right?
yeah.
And you two, are still holding your other jobs. What type of hats are you wearing now? How has your journey now evolved where you have the space, you're up and running? What does it look like now going through all that?
It looks beautiful. It does. It does. At what we would like to show everyone on the outside, everything is beautiful, but unfortunately, we're still dealing with the hurdle of employment. People do not want to work, and we've gone through several channels to gain employees, and it is still a difficulty that we are experiencing because the government doesn't understand that if you give people money to stay at home, they're going to stay at home. They're not going to try to go out and find a job, because you're giving them money to stay at home.
Yeah, and we understand that there's a lot of folks who absolutely need those assistance. But at the end of the day, you ride around, it's not hard to see that everyone is literally begging people to come back to work.
Every place we go to, even McDonald's, Wendy's, we drive by, they have "we're hiring" signs in the windows because it's a sickness right now going on. People do not want to work, and so we actually have customers. We actually have a little, not as huge as a Southfield location, but we have a customer base right now, and we have to have them wait sometimes, and it really grinds my gears because I don't want that to be the running theme that, oh yeah, their food is good, but it's a long wait for something as simple as a sandwich, because I'm trying to make 5 to 8 sandwiches by myself at one time, don't have a cashier, don't have anyone to bag this stuff up, not having someone in the back to clean the dishes and things like that. Those things are a hindrance, and they do hold up our process.
So to answer your question, how many hats we're wearing right now?
I run
all the hats.
I run all of them.
Register, meet and greet.
All of them. Every single one you can think of in the restaurant industry.
Management.
I wear them all.
Ownership.
we wear them all.
We're wearing a lot of hats right now. And that's the sandbox that we're in right now. It's not going to be forever. It's going to be, something that's it's temporary. And so we just got to stay diligent and prepare for that next change. Because eventually
September, I can't wait.
We're going to get to a space where, these aren't going to be the issues that we're going to be dealing with because we're going to already have this figured out. So our main focus right now is just to continue to push forward, do what we can, solve the problems that we can solve, not worry about the ones that we can't, there's nothing that we can do about, and just, as time progresses and goes forward, figure this out and continue on our road to success.
What advice would you share or dispense to individuals right now who are looking to get into the restaurant industry? Like, what are the top 2-3 pieces of advice you would give to individuals based on your challenge and challenges that you've had so far?
I think the advice I would give them is to take the time out and study what it is that you're getting into. Even if it's not a restaurant, take the time out, and read that franchise agreement. Do research online in that particular field that you may want to invest in. Think about the history of that field. I was reading books on the history of franchises, and very particularly Black franchises in America while we were going through this process, just so I can have a greater understanding, about the challenges that we may face, the challenges that we've already faced in trying to get to where we are right now. Having a complete, firm foundation as to what it is that you want to invest your time, your money,
and your finances. That's a very big important part for me. Yeah. I'm always the one of what dollars that what's going on with the money, so I would really tell people to properly analyze and break down what your financial return and everything could potentially be.
Yeah.
And at the absolute worst moment in the business, do you have the funds to be able to continue to maintain your business? So you won't be one of these people out here who are only open for 6 months and then have to shut down because you didn't properly allocate funds towards not having this and not having that, or needing this and needing that. You want to really meticulously break those elements down so that you are aware of what you're really getting yourself into, because you may not make a profit or be able to pay yourself for about a year or two. So you need to make sure that you're aware of those things. You can sleep at night, knowing that.
That's we're close. I don't know
who that is. We are not open.
So you said something a couple times that really caught my attention. Was one of the reasons why I really got excited about you two, right? African American owned franchise, right? Have you come across any unique challenges even dealing with that, right? Integrating into an African American owned franchise, and how the public may have received it or not received it. Do you think it impacted your process at all? And if so,
yeah,
how?
Yes,
absolutely.
The fact that there was no brand awareness for this particular type of business on a greater scale really impacted us.
I mean, even from how contractors treated us, and other individuals in the business profession treated us. We went into business with someone who we did not know. This is a person who we met. This individual, we met her because we went to her location. We filled out an application to inquire about being a franchise owner with her. We sat down, we had meetings, and we've become very, very close as time progressed and as we move forward through this process. But a lot of people think that we're related. It is like foreign to them to think
everyone thinks she's my mom.
Right. They think that it is so foreign for them to think that two complete strangers would come together, have an idea to put together a business, to open up a location and do all of these things and invest so much time, energy, and finances into something, and they're not related. This is something that happens in white America every single day. But in Black America, you have to be related. That has to be your mom, that has to be your cousin. We literally have people come up to us and say, "Hey, where's your mom at?" And we're
Seriously.
like, "Who are you talking about?"
Our business
Our business partner, because that's who this person is. I can imagine, them working with someone in white America, someone who's in a white business establishment, and see them working with somebody, and then automatically assign to them, a relationship role that they have, and just say, "Oh, that must be your dad because you two are doing." No, it doesn't happen. They look at them as a business partner, as a business entity. And they don't look at us the same way. This must be your parent.
I mean, even people from the Macomb County Chamber and everywhere around us, they assume they say "Oh, I thought that was your mom," because we are close. Don't get me wrong. We do we are around each other a lot, but that's because it's important for us to communicate about what's going on, because this is her first experience and this is our first experience as well. So we are together a lot.
We're learning. We're going through this process together.
I love it. I mean, and as I don't need to tell you, I mean, and I don't want to put any extra weight on your shoulders, right? But in many respects, I mean, you are kind of like pioneering in this industry, because you don't see a lot of African Americans investing in franchises, period, aside from the traditional ones, right? The McDonald's, what have you. But you typically don't, especially in the startup, as a startup, you just don't see that transpire. And so, I just applaud your success every single day. Like, I'm watching. What else can I do? What else can I share? What resources can I make available to you? Who can I connect you with to make sure you have success? And I know you probably feel that sometimes, right? It's the whole, cliche that, especially when you're corporate America, that everyone's looking at you as if you're the representative of the entire African diaspora. When it's like, no, I'm just me building a business and doing what other entrepreneurs do. And I'm happy to have success and to keep my doors open another day. So No, I applaud that. I mean, I think that's a part of your story that we need to talk about more. When we talk about branding, right? We need to share that with more people. People need to know that you are kind of like, you are pioneers, particularly in this Michigan market in that respect.
Yep, and there was a time and a place where, especially during the Black Power movement in the 1960s and 1970s, where there were Black franchise restaurants, and they did not last. There was a lot of work and effort by other major restaurants to really put them out of business.
Yep.
And when you look at it, like, we taught America how to cook. You know what I'm saying? But you don't see any major Black-owned franchises in America. I don't think that there's any that exist. And there has to be something that there has to be a conversation about that at some point in time. Whether that's the conversation that we need to have or something down the future, in the future. But it gives you something to think about because we really believe in what it is that we're doing in the product that we have here and the future that's in front of us.
I love it. I love it. What are the things that you're most excited about right now? We talked about the challenges. We have sufficiently scared our listening audience.
I don't think we scared them. They told us all of it with a smile on their faces.
Yes,
So
yes.
there's upsides.
Let's talk a little bit about the upsides. Let's have that conversation. What are you most excited about?
Whatever business anyone is thinking about being involved in, and staying true to what that business is, and having the moments where you have a customer come in or just call the phone and be like, that food was so good. Oh my God, that food was so good. I cannot wait to come back. Oh my God, you guys are great. Everything, especially when we do our tasting samples of the soups, and they be like, oh, that's so good. Then they go to the next one, because we have 9 soups all together that they have to taste. So they like, shoot, I done got full off samples. Like, I'm so excited to come back, and they do. They're so excited to come back, and they enjoy. The guy came in yesterday, and he came in right when we had ran out of one of his soups and everything. And he was like, that's what I came here for. And I was like, well, give me a few minutes. And he went. And he was like, well, I gotta go, but I'm gonna have to just come back. And then I went in the back and I whipped him up just a little sample size for a little bit to take with him. And he was very appreciative of that little sample size that I gave him to go. Because it was
small gesture.
Yeah, and they really appreciate it. And that wasn't his first time here. He's been here several other times.
We had a kid who was here last weekend, last Saturday. And when he came in, you can tell he didn't want to be here. He didn't want to try anything. He didn't want to taste anything. And he had an attitude. He was probably about 10, 11 years old. Gave him a sample of our chicken noodle soup, and he tasted it. He was like, all right, I'll have some chicken noodle soup. He was here with his family and everything. By the time he finished the bowl of chicken noodle soup, we brought out some peach cobbler. And he lit up. I mean, he never talks to anybody. He's always angry about this and about that. And he was in here just having a good time, having conversation, and he enjoyed it.
And they bought him some to go home. They bought like 5 peach cobblers.
Let's get some more of this peach cobbler. I don't know what y'all did to it, but he loves it. And I mean, for us, and his dad has come throughout the week to get stuff for him and everything, and get stuff for his mom, because his mom was the one who came in and everything. And he loves it. He loves it. He says, tell some of his people about it, the place where he works, and those things right there just warms your heart. It makes everything, all of the wounds you have from going through the process of getting things started, it starts to put that aloe vera on them. It's more aloe vera soothing them, making them go away, making things a little better, make you feel a little better about all of the hardships you had to experience and everything, and whatnot. So yeah.
That's awesome.
So customer satisfaction.
That's good. As we're getting towards the end, but we want to keep it on this high note a little bit.
Okay.
You guys gave us so many important lessons and things that we don't always hear from our guests all the time, of even just something simple as like, you need to sit and read the paperwork, but if you could, and maybe you have 2, one from each of you, of, the most important lesson that you'd want to share and pass off to our listening audience regarding entrepreneurship or getting started in entrepreneurship, what would that be?
Don't doubt yourself. Never doubt yourself. Never feel as though you cannot do this, because you definitely can. Your body has the willpower. You have resources out there available to you. Even if you have to search, some people don't have to search for resources and things like that. They're just handed to them. But if you are unfortunately one of the people who don't have that access to those resources, go out and find it, because there are people out here available who will be able to point you in the direction. Here, this guy here in the screen. It will point you in the direction of the things that you may need and people who can assist you on your journey. You're not gonna be able to do everything by yourself. So, so believe in yourself and keep just pushing forward. Today, it's gonna be a good day. Every moment is an opportunity for something to change.
Yeah.
Just think that.
And
this too shall pass.
Right. You're gonna have a lot of this too shall pass moments.
Yes.
And don't doubt yourself and be honest with yourself. Be completely, totally transparent with yourself. Before you tell a lie to somebody else, you can tell that lie to yourself. Be honest with what your capacity is and what you can do and what you can't do, because that's really the things that's most important. Understand where you lack in those skills and be creative in trying to either develop those skills within yourself or find someone who have those skills that can do that work for you. You don't have to be, the end all to be all throughout this process. There are people, there are resources that are available to help you move you along that process, but you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest about how you're going to attack it. If you know this is not your strong suit, that's okay, that's fine. There's tons of people out here who will be willing to do it for you, who you can pay someone to do, or who would do it voluntarily, or you can find a program or things that can do it at a very cheap price. I can tell you, Juwan, when you set us up with the program that we had, it was a breath of fresh air for us, because it allowed us to make decisions and know that we was on the right path, because we were able to send we were able to send that information over to a third party, take a look at it, and they were coming back with the same information that we had. So we knew that we knew what we were doing, and we knew what we were reading and what we were talking about, because we had someone who were able to look at it and say, yeah, this is exactly what it is. So, just being honest with that process, and, don't doubt yourself and stay honest to yourself.
I love it. I love it. So you two have exhibited a multitude of superpowers. That's one of the questions that we typically ask. It's like, choose which one, right? But one of the questions we in NextOppSocial with is either what is something or like a gift, if you will, right, that you want people to know about you, or what is a superpower that you feel like you have that has allowed you to have success and to be able to persevere and continue to achieve, whichever one is easiest for you.
Support for me, because this guy right here, I'm telling you, he has pushed me in ways in which I did not want to be pushed, but he knew I was capable of doing it. And I knew that I was capable of doing it. And it was just that extra bump that I needed from him to be like, come on now, go on out there, get on stage. We got this performance. You got to go on out there. Let's do it. Come on, champ, you got this. And that right there is very important. And it was very something that's why I'm taking him out today on helicopter ride. I want to show him that I appreciate him and everything. I'm going to face my fears and heights and all of those things. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to look out the window, for love and for support.
And to be honest with you, that love is reciprocated on my end, because that is what I get from her. She pushes me and challenges me to do those things, to take on those activities, so that we can continue to accomplish our goals.
Yeah, because he wanted to be in real estate. We went to another seminar about homes and doing homes and everything, and we made the decision, but I was like real hell-bent on this food situation. So this is what we ultimately did and everything. So I was appreciative of him in that regard as well, that he decided to, take on my responsibilities. And it's not going with the way he wanted to do, which probably would have been easier, honestly.
To kind of tie things all together, problem solving is probably the biggest thing that you're going to have to learn to do. in any business, in any capacity. Problems is something that exists. There are challenges that are always going to happen. That's going to step into your lane, and you have to know how to handle each situation the way it needs to be handled. Being able to just take a step back, think about things, and just go through your thought process. Problem solving is really big. We're faced with problems and challenges every single day. But we have to be positive and we have to be creative on how we're going to attack those problems and how to resolve those issues so that they don't continue to be issues as we move forward on this process. As we tackle one thing, we know that something else is going to, it's going to happen, but we don't have to attack things that we've already dealt with because we know how to handle those issues.
Yeah, and then you're planning ahead and everything. Like you guys see, we did this podcast here today at the restaurant because we were already here. Because we come in on our off day and try to see what could be a potential issue we're going to experience next week, and let's try to make sure everything in this kitchen and everything in the front of the house and everything is good and organized, so when hurdles do come up, we can handle them a lot more smoothly. It's not so, oh my God, last minute. So
if you're spending a lot of time talking about the same problems over and over and over again,
you're doing something to fix it on time.
You're not doing something right. You're not doing something right. You're not moving in the direction that you need to be moving to. You're wasting a lot of time doing that because there's a solution there. You just have to put forth the effort and you got to find it.
Perfect. Well, we're going to let you get on that helicopter ride. But Alan Alexis, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and share all this wisdom. How can people learn more about Soupdive, visit you, support you? What is the best way for them to do that?
Everywhere. You can go on our Facebook, Soupdive, Soupdive, or you can go on our website, thesoupdive.com, or you come visit us here in Warren, 32818 Ryan Road. If you've gone past 14 Mile, you've gone too far.
Just south of 14
Just south of 14 Mile. I don't think we have any other search.
What are your hours? What are your hours?
Oh, our hours are Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Once we are able to find more employees and everything like that, we are thinking about expanding our hours to probably 9, but right now, 11 to 6.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.